Hey guys, hope everything's going well. So today's message is kind of different, something not usually what I would do, but it's basically the heading is it's not the size of the tree but that matters, but it's the story behind the tree. It goes about a bonsai. If you don't know what's a bonsai, I love plants. Bonsais are amazing. They're these tiny little trees that have these unique shapes, unique sizes, blossoms. You can even have ones with tiny little fruit. But we are basically the bonsais of God. Because have you ever heard the thing about He prunes us, we are the grapevines, He molds us, He shapes us, He designed us in our mother's wombs. All of those things, whenever I hear stuff like pruning or stuff, it takes me back to the bonsai. And I think it's really imaginative when you think about it in that way. It's something spiritual. So if you can imagine us being a tree. And to start off with the bonsai, you have to start off with a seed. So you plant the seed. This is now basically Christianity when that seed gets planted in us. And we are basically also the seed. So it's two things, the Christianity and us growing. So then it's the living water. He waters us. God waters us. He's the main bonsai-nist. I think that's what you call it. So basically it starts off, then He waters us with living water. We start to grow. We break through our shells. We start to grow mature by delving into His Word. He feeds us, sustains us, like the Bible says. He gives us sustenance. So then we start to grow. At a certain size, when we're strong enough and stable enough, He takes us out of that pot, because He plants us in a small pot at first, because you can't place such a big seed and it'll drown. So He places us in a small thing that He can sustain us and that He can move around to places where we need to be. So then He goes, when we're strong enough, He pulls us out. He cuts the main root, because the main root is where the tree gets its main source of nutrients. So then at that season or at that point, it feels like we have to search for new sources. It feels like the one's dried out. And that's exactly what He wants at that moment, because it enables us or forces us to get out of our comfort zone. It forces the tree to come out of its comfort zone, to spread new roots, to find new sources for nutrients, for substance, for growth, and to also anchor the plant so it can be more stable in the future. And then while He does this, He places us into a bigger pot. He leaves us for a bit. Because when you plant upon bonsai over, you leave it for a small bit. Then what you do is you leave it for a bit, you don't give it water. And at that moment, the branches and the stuff starts to wither, the plant starts to wither, but the branches become soft and malleable. So at this point, He shapes us. Then you can bend the branches into a shape that you want. And then at that moment, you support the tree with wire. Just like God places people in our lives, that at moments when we feel it's a dry season, because come on, who of us haven't felt that we haven't gone through a dry patch, a dry season where it feels like nothing's fueling me, I'm not getting substance. But it's in this time that we become malleable, flexible, that He can take us into another direction, bend us into a different direction. And at that moment is when we are at our weakest, it's that He can do the most with us. That's the moment you can do the most with the tree, because the branches won't break. And then once it's done, once He has the shape and he puts the wire, which also represents the friends and the family and the people around us who support us at that moment, then you give it water. And at that moment He fuels you with a new word, new water, new life, new fire. And at that moment, the tree strengthens and everything hardens, and then it keeps that shape. But what's good to think about is the maker of the bonsai doesn't do everything willy-nilly. He always has a plan. From the beginning, when that seed was sown, He knew what seed it was and how it should look. Every tree is different. Every bonsai you get is different. You can see so many bonsais in this world that people make. Now just imagine, he knows The one who makes the bonsai plants the seed. He knows what type of tree is going to grow, and he knows what type of shape he wants it to look like. And then it's that tree's job to grow. That's all. But if the tree is a bit stubborn, like some of the times we are also stubborn, because what can I say? Yeah, we're stubborn some of the times. We don't listen. We want to grow in ways, shoot out branches that's not supposed to be there. And what does he have to do? Just like the Bible verse says, John 5, verse 2 to 6, where every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away, and every branch that bears fruit, he prunes so that it branches out and bears more fruit. So must the person do to the bonsai. So must he do to us. That if we put out a shoot this way, then, and it's not supposed to be there, he cuts it off. He makes it new. He makes sure it doesn't get infected, and then that encourages new growth in a certain way. And then once that tree is even larger enough and it's stable enough, then this is why it's an ongoing process. A bonsai doesn't stop growing. It always reaches the brim of its pot. And so do we. We come to a certain point that it feels like you're stable, you're well, nothing can go wrong, everything's going right, you're settling in, and then it's that moment where the tree is at its most vulnerable. Because if the tree is kept unkept, its roots entangle itself and it kills itself. Because then it's basically suffocates itself by its own roots, going around and around and around and digging itself a grave. So then he has to come again and then pick it out, disturb the roots, and then it's this moment where it feels like our lives is busy falling apart, because that's literally what's happening to the tree. Is the ground is being shaken, and the roots are being disturbed. Its sense of comfort, its sense of stability is being taken away, being corrupted. And it's at that moment that the tree holds all its nutrients, and at that moment the tree goes into a stage of fright. And at that moment he keeps everything, he doesn't shoot new roots, but at that moment it gives the person who prepares the bonsai, it gives him time to prune it, tame it, keep it kept, cut the roots that aren't supposed to be there, because there's certain roots that become faulty, full of fungus, because those sources have dried out, and then it needs to be removed. And then he cuts it off, he puts anti-fungicide on it so that it doesn't get infected, and then he puts in new substance, new soil. Everything has to be new. Every time you replant it, you put new stuff, you take a new pot, a bigger pot, a pot that suits the tree, a pot that suits the bonsai. And the only thing that I can say is that it doesn't, why the main topic of this tree about bonsais is they're so beautiful, they're tiny. They're these tiny little trees, but they look, you can't tell how old a bonsai is by the look. Because when we think about a tree being old, it's this big, ginormous trunk of a tree. But in a bonsai, you can have a bonsai of this small, and then it's like 100 and something years old, passed down from family to family. And then the same is with us. It doesn't matter the size of the tree. It doesn't matter your size. It doesn't matter how you look. It doesn't matter everything. But the thing is the story behind the tree. The story about what makes you unique. Because every bonsai is unique. So is the same that God prunes us each differently. We all need to find a source different. Some of us are bent one way. Some of us are oak trees. Some of us are pine trees. Everyone's unique. Everyone's different. And the only thing is that we have to go find out and accept, because the tree can't change who it is. It's an oak tree. If it was an oak seed, it's going to be an oak tree. But the thing is, it's supposed to be that way. The tree's supposed to just grow. That's all. It's just supposed to grow, because that's what we get wrong sometimes is we grow and we worry about what's next, what's this, what's that. We're stressing about things we're not supposed to stress about. Our job is just supposed to grow, because He's going to mold us. He's going to take us to where He wants us to be, into the form that we need to be. And it's our job just to be malleable, flexible, because then he doesn't have to put us through a dry season. Because sometimes we get put into dry seasons because it's our own fault. It's the tree's own fault because it's hardened. It's like just the same with us. If we harden our heart, God has to do certain things in order to soften our heart. Stuff has to be broken down. Rocks have to be smashed. Soil has to be unturned in order to soften up the heart so that seeds and new things can grow. So I want to ask you guys is, from now on, if you look at trees or you look at something in nature, because whenever I look in nature, if I look at the stars, if I look at trees, and it's something beautiful, then I see God's hand in it. And if he places so much detail into every little thing in this world, because trees are big, but in comparison to the universe, it's small. So we are also large in comparison to ants. So the thing is, from now on, if you look at these small things, may you see his hand in everything, and may you see that the worth that he's given into you, and the time, because it takes a lot of time to create a bonsai. A bonsai isn't made in a year or in a month or in a week or in days. It takes years and years of practice, and it takes years and years of growth and transferring and bending and cutting and pruning, and so much work has to go in through to make the perfect bonsai. And that's just it. When a bonsai is finished or finished to be sold, it's perfect. It's how it should be. And that's what he says about us in the Bible, that we are perfect, we are masterpieces. And the one Bible verse that goes along with the bonsais about having known how they should look before they are actually looking like that is the same, like he knitted us in our mother's wombs and he knew us even before we were ever born. So how great is that? Even when our seeds were planted before he's sown us together, that he already knew how we should look, what's our name going to be, and how he's going to use us one day in this world. But then the bad thing comes in. You get two types of sculptists. You get God, which is the good sculptist. He knows how you should look, what you should do, and what you should be like. But then you get the bad sculptist. You get the devil. Now, it's the trees, it's our decision in who we place our lives and who we place our trust. So you either go for the good sculptist or you go for the bad one. The bad one doesn't care how you look. He leads you out of control. He overwaters you. He feeds you. He doesn't change your pot. He places you in. He gives you so much food, so much thing that everything the tree gets this high about. It's growing and it's growing and it's growing and it's growing, and it doesn't care because it's getting feeding and it's getting light, and it's not getting hurt because it doesn't get pruned, because it can go wild now. It can grow out of control. But then the thing is that tree loses its shape. It loses its uniqueness. It becomes like all the others around, and then it's an unkept tree. And there are a lot of unkept trees in this world, and they don't stand out. But if you look at the bonsai, the one that the perfect sculptor looks at, the one who knows what best image suits that tree, of that specific tree, is going to make that tree shine and shine out throughout all the other trees in the world, because every tree is unique. So all that I want to place upon you is the question is, whom are you letting prune you? Who's in charge of which sculptist are you letting your life into? Who is the one pruning you? Okay, so that's it. I hope to see you guys very soon. We all miss you. We love you. So from me to you, bye, and I love you.